Hello everyone, and welcome back to another R tutorial video. And in this video I want to wrap up our discussion on using GGPLOT2 to create a plot that has two different point data sets and their trend lines. So this is the graphic we have so far, and this is the code right here that we've used to generate this. If you're trying to follow along and you don't have the previous video's code in front of you, I encourage you to just pause the video and catch back up. So really what I want to focus on in this video is finishing up cleaning the graph up itself and focus on the legend. So the only real thing left to do in terms of cleaning the data, the plot itself up, is in my opinion to remove these error curves here. And those come from the geom smooth call. And the way that we remove them is by adding an additional parameter called SE. And we set that equal to false. We'll do that in both. And if we run that code, you'll see that we've removed those gray error indicators. So finally now we can start working on the legend. And the legend here is going to be very similar to what we did for the histogram video, with a couple of key exceptions here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to, if you remember, we're going to use that scale, the set of scale functions to adjust the legend. And because we have everything tied to this color parameter here, we're going to use scale underscore color. Now, when we did color before, we used color brewer. Now we want to use color manual because we want to be able to go in and adjust things manually. So if you remember from our previous video, we had to change three things: name, values, and labels. So we're going to go through and we're going to change these three parameters here. The first is going to be the name, and this is going to be the name that we change the legend title to. And in this case, we're going to change it to species. For values, this is going to determine what we have here in terms of how we set up the left side here. And remember when I mentioned before that it's a really good idea when you're doing this to dictate what you're talking about, equals, and then what you want to set it to. And the reason that I sort of changed before we did red and blue here, I did set and ver, is to show you that what we can do here to keep ourselves sane is we can actually do set equals, and then we can use a different setup. We can use the RGB setup to specify the color here. And we're going to use RGB, and we're going to use the same one that we did before, where we used 0.5, 0.5, and 0.5. So a medium weight gray. And then we're going to have ver equal RGB. And then in this RGB, we're going to do 0.25, 0.25, and 0.25. So this is going to be a darker shade of gray. Now, just to sort of go back and explain here, because this is different from the way we set it up before, the reason I use set here is because set is a little bit more explanatory than if I were to have done red or blue. And now when we're down here in values, we can clearly see what we're doing. We have the set, everything that is grouped in the set, and we're making it a medium gray. And everything that is in the VersaColor group, setting to a darker gray. And then finally, we're going to use the labels to change the text that we have next to the figure. And we're going to do that in the same way, where we have set equals, and then we're going to call that one Setosa. And we're going to have ver, everything in the ver group. And we're going to label that VersaColor. So if I run this, assuming I didn't make any critical errors, we will run this again. And you'll see here that we've actually done exactly what we set out to do. We now have a lighter gray Setosa with the dashed line and circles, and we have the darker gray versicolor with the dashed line and the triangles. Now, one last thing that you might notice is if you look over here at the legend, you'll see that we have these lines running through the icons here, and that may or may not be what you're looking for. I personally think it's distracting, and it draws away from the ability to tell that this is a triangle and this is a circle. So what I would recommend doing to get rid of that is that's actually coming from this geom smooth function, and it's coming from a parameter called show.legend. And if we set show.legend equal to false in both of these, it's going to not be used in the legend. So if we run this again, and we run this again, you'll see here that we have removed them from the legend. So hopefully that made sense. If any of this doesn't make sense, I encourage you to go back, rewatch the part you're confused about, and as always, please reach out. Thank you.